let's move on. Let's talk about the Celtics. The Celtics did beat New Orleans on Monday, so that's good. It was with Anthony Davis, so that's good. Prior to that, they had lost 4 of 5 and had really been struggling in the same way that they have been struggling throughout the course of the season. Particularly over that stretch of games, I would point out that the defense hasn't been as great as what we've seen from them recently. 115 defensive rating against Dallas, 115 against the Knicks, 115 against Charlotte, 109 against New Orleans, which, right around what New Orleans' overall offensive rating is throughout the course of the season. They just don't really have an identity yet.
That is an understatement of the goddamn decade. This is a team that doesn't know what to do with each other. I mean, they're all looking at each other. I mean, they're constantly flummoxed. And I'm not the biggest Marcus Smart guy, but I understand what Marcus Smart is. I'm not the biggest Marcus Morris guy, but I understand what he is too. And they put him in the starting. Sacrilege.
You are not a Marcus Smart guy.
It's what it is.
Sacrilege.
Okay. I'm pretty
filibuster.
But they put them both in the starting lineup, and what happened? A couple of headstrong guys actually pushed something into existence. They did something. They didn't all just stand around and wait for someone else to take control. Last time we talked, I said Kyrie needs to initiate more. He needs to get a little more headstrong. He needs to just decide, this is my team. We're going to penetrate and dish. We're going to get simple. They didn't really do that because Brad Stevens is probably never going to say, let's get simple. But adding in the Marquis did create a bit of a bowling ball effect. You just need some dudes who are going to just go in there and get theirs. And certainly Smart will give you plenty on the defensive side in terms of just intensity. And I don't even care if he's good at playing defense. You just need sometimes dudes who are just going to be crazy out there. That helps. But it's
here's what I'll say.
Really Marcus just Smart, concerning that they don't know what they are yet.
Marcus Smart is really good defensively, so that helps.
Yes.
And second, he is unselfish offensively and happy to kind of defer a little bit, which I also think is something that this team needs a little bit of. Like they need someone who is happy to make plays for others and happy to keep the ball moving on the perimeter while also being a really, really good high-level defensive player.
And a solid offensive rebounder for his size.
Right. Like the fact that Marcus Smart has always been a positive on the floor for the Celtics, I don't really think that is a coincidence. Like he's just kind of the perfect complementary player for today's NBA because he can guard 1 through 4. And despite the fact that he can't shoot, is a positive offensive player because he keeps the ball moving and because he can like attack closeouts and handle the ball a little bit and do everything that you need a, guard / secondary ball handler to do. So I'm a big fan of them moving Marcus Smart into the starting lineup. I'll be really interested to see what they do whenever Jaylen Brown comes back, because is the move to just replace Marcus Smart in the starting lineup? Is it to bring Jaylen off the bench with Gordon Hayward? Is it to replace Marcus Morris in the starting lineup, who Marcus Morris has been honestly one of their most consistent offensive players this year, which is
he's been good.
Crazy to say and yet accurate.
Well, he's the only son of a bitch who will actually, if he gets the ball, just fire the ball. I mean, he is always looking to get buckets. And, as much as Tatum wants to get his this year, he's taken like 7 dribbles every time. I mean, the flow is completely lost in so many different places. Marcus Morris, it's part of the flow. I mean,
and Marcus will chuck.
He'll chuck. Sometimes you just need a guy who will chuck, especially when everything is so stagnant or at its worst constipated. Like just getting the ball to a guy who's just going to decide that, it's rainmaking season is a positive thing. But again, how did we get to the point where Marcus Morris is the cure for whatever the hell, illness they got going on? That's not good. I mean, Jaylen hasn't been great. I think Tatum is overdoing it. I think Kawhi is probably too far in his head. I'm sorry.
Did you say Kawhi?
Kyrie, sorry. I got New Balance on the mind. Kyrie is maybe too far in his head about what the point guard should be for the Celtics, right? Like the concept of point guard, if he should go out and get buckets or if he should be the one who sort of makes it all click around. I don't think he necessarily even has the capability to do the latter. So just do the former, do the thing that you're good at. But there's a lot of dudes who are trying to shoot themselves out of a funk and probably only, or they're trying to get themselves out of a funk and probably only exacerbating the overall team funk that they have going on.
So here's the good news for the Celtics. Since they've moved Gordon Hayward to the bench, he has like a 10 net rating. So like lineups with Gordon Hayward are working right now. That is incredibly valuable for what the Celtics are trying to do. The fact that he can come off the bench and be effective is really important to his role, I think, on this team now. In terms of course, in terms of Kyrie, you know, you and I were very concerned about the way Kyrie started the year. He's been pretty good over the last like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I would say. Maybe 3 weeks is the way to put it. I'd say basically since the start of November, maybe what was the Detroit game? He had like the 30-point Detroit game. Yeah, I remember
really good in Detroit. That would have been that was like 2 weeks ago. Those two
No. Let me look. It was November or October 30th.
You're 1,000% right. My bad.
Yeah, no. Well, like it's fine. He was really good a couple Fridays ago against who was, I believe, Charlotte. He was really good. Maybe it was Utah. It was one of those.
He's a really good player. I wish that he would just be more really good all the time.
Hashtag Kyrie is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Kyrie has been really good. He started to figure some things out, get back into the swing of things a little bit. That's great. He's starting to really distribute the ball and pass it at a high level over their last 6 games or so, 7 games or so. He's had 4 games over 10 assists in that stretch. He's been pretty good during this downturn, which I wonder if that is like something to note or if it's just like, they'll figure it out. We're a quarter of the way through the season and they'll just get it together. Eventually at some point, Kyrie and Marcus Smart are going to click together, or Kyrie and Jalen are going to click together, and Jason Tatum is going to be fine, and Al Horford's going to keep doing awesome things to help the flow of everyone on both ends.
Yeah,
I still am there. Like I'm still just like, okay, whatever. But we are getting further into the season with Boston having not figured it out, and that is notable in a lot of ways.
Well, these sons of bitches can't shoot right now, and that's an issue. It's just straight up. They have, what are they shooting at? Effective field goal percentage around like 50. I mean, that's you have to be a completely locked down defense the way that Oklahoma City has been over the last couple of weeks to get away with stuff like that. And frankly, I think the Celtics defense has slipped a little bit. I think that teams with the way that lineups are switching in and out have found some vulnerabilities. They need to get their offense in order first and foremost. The defense will be there at the end of the season. They have too many good defensive players. The system is too strong. They'll be there. They need to get their offense figured out. And for the life of me, every week I get more and more confused as to how they're going to do that. I don't know.
There's just no flow. There's nothing
that's exactly
there
what I was
yet.
going to say. When was the last time you remember this team playing with flow and solid ball movement, and it felt like they had a bit of rhythm and verve to them?
And this was a team that you always felt that way about. Like for the last 3 years since Stevens is there, I don't know if I want to say always. Like last year, there were times where you didn't really feel that way. Yeah, it did get a little bit sticky.
Especially in the playoffs. But, man, I mean, this team was able to create something out of nothing in that department out of the half court. I mean, there's not a lot of teams that can do that. I mean, even the Warriors struggle to do that, and they're the team that's probably at the forefront of it. The Celtics were their sets were so intricate and so
well, they play slow too. Like that's the other thing. So like teams with higher pace tend to play better or more efficient offensive play. Like pace is correlated with offensive efficiency because it leads to more transition opportunities. In Boston, well, it's just naturally like it is. Naturally, it is.
Sorry, I thought you meant in the reverse, and I go, well, that doesn't seem right.
Well, no,
I understand.
Pace
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, pace and offensive efficiency are correlated. If pace goes down, offensive efficiency goes down. It's just you make it up on the defensive end. Defensive efficiency tends to go up because you reduce transition opportunities. And that's exactly right. What you said, like in terms of their offensive sets being clean and crisp, they tended to be totally fine in that regard when Kyrie was healthy last year, at least.
Yeah. No,
it's not there yet.
Well, let's also say I don't. Kyrie is a really good off-ball player, and in fact, probably the best he played in Cleveland was when they would play him off ball and play him as a 2, and they would run floppy action for him time and time again. I'm not seeing a lot of that, which I don't know if that's Kyrie's call or if it's Stevens' call. Certainly, they have the ball handlers on this team to take on that load and allow Kyrie to play off ball more. I would like to see this team maybe, now that we're sort of just in the experimental phase of how do we fix this, let's see what some pace will do for these guys. Let's go with the small ball lineup with Morris at the 5 and just kind of say defense be damned for a bit and go with Jalen and Tatum and I don't know, Smart and Kyrie and Morris and just run and just go. Maybe that would unstick some things and get this team's groove back. Because honestly, I think this is more of a psychological thing now than anything else. They don't know who they are, and they don't know how to get there either. This is effectively a new team.
I was going to say, like, I don't even know if it's psychological. I think it's just like it's still a new team.
That's a psychological thing. I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
They don't. There's no comfortability on this squad yet, and I don't necessarily think that the players that this team is built to develop that comfortability. Just you think about the kind of strange brew that this roster is made up from. They have 2 backup 1s that are good enough to be starters in the league in Smart, if we're considering him still a 1, which he really isn't. He's just sort of a utility man. And Rozier.
Marcus Smart is basically like basketball's version of Ben Zobrist.
Totally. He's the war machine. What would be the basketball equivalent of that? Wind share machine? Not as fun. Like you have Kyrie, who's, if we're being totally honest, is probably better as a 2. That sounds ridiculous, but like it is a 1 that had a lot of 2 tendencies.
I don't know if he's better as a 1 or a 2. I just think he's
an offensive weapon, and you want to be able to interchange it more. I don't see that interchange right now. And when him and Rozier would play last year, this is just off the top of my head again, the numbers might not bear it out, but it seemed like things worked a little bit better because Rozier is a really nice, interesting balance of Rozier will be a pass first guy, but he'll also get his, and he'll get to the hoop. And he's kind of a boiled down version of what Kyrie is. And so you play him and Kyrie at the same time, that really created a lot of issues for the defense because both of them were capable of doing anything at any time. That's the value in the modern NBA as an offense, just threat. And this team right now doesn't feel like it's maximizing its threat potential because Tatum kind of just wants to be a spot up shooter, mid-range guy. Jalen, I think, has figured out his role a little bit better, but he's not efficient yet, which makes it dangerous. Horford is always going to be Horford and solid and unspectacular to the casual fan, particularly on the offensive side of things. I would like to see them run with a little bit more pace and verve and just maybe speed it up a little bit and see what happens. And maybe that unclogs some stuff, or maybe that helps guys just sort of free their minds from the situation. Because right now, again, it's a lot of guys who are trying to make it work, and they don't really know what they're supposed to be on this team yet. Really, the one guy I know who knows what he's supposed to be on this team is the guy who isn't being all that efficient. I think Jaylen Brown knows exactly what he's supposed to be. Just not doing a very good job.
Well, I think Kyrie knows what he's supposed to be. It's just like fitting in with everyone else because Kyrie's the guy that you make it work around, right? And
I don't know if Kyrie knows what he needs to be. I think that he certainly has an understanding of the options available to him, but I don't know. I mean, again, he can do so many different things. It's hard to figure it out. This is a really complex jigsaw puzzle when you have players this versatile, because you need to find just one combination that works in in like the Da Vinci Code when you had to like make the word on the vial.
The codex.
The codex.
Is that
right?
what it is?
Right.
The word Apple in codex, in the codex?
You're very good at this stuff. Thank you for helping me out there, because I was flailing like the Celtics offense. But like, they need to know. They have not figured out just one combination to unlock it. And there's 100 different ones, but they just need to find one, and then things will flow, because then they can at least go back to the base. But right now, with Irving being able to be both a 2 and a 1, and he can be a penetrating point guard, he can be a guy who just spots up and shoots and lets somebody else do it. You got Tatum and all of the complexities of a young player trying to find his stardom, which is what his potential is, and developing into that, while also wanting to be a solid role player. You got Morris, who I think probably actually knows what he is the more I think about it. He's a chucker. But, in Horford, who's always going to want to put the team over himself.
And goddamn it, Horford knows what he is, and Marcus Smart knows who he is too.
Right. They're pretty much the polar opposite people. But there's a lot of complexity to this team. And I don't know if it will ever get figured out. Right?
I think it will.
Listen.
Brad Stevens is the coach, and they have a lot of unselfish players on that team. They'll figure it out. I'm like, that's where I'm at. Like, it's going to be fine. It's just whether or not they're the 1 seed or the 4 seed.